Welcome to the Close the Deal Without Selling podcast and my wonderful guest, Rhonda Sher, who will talk with us about authentic engagement. Hello, listeners of the Close the Deal Without Selling podcast. I'm here with my friend of quite a few years, Rhonda Sher, who's going to be talking to us today about a lot of subjects, but one that I know that'll be near and dear to your heart if you're doing any type of social media marketing at all will be LinkedIn and how to make the most out of LinkedIn. So that's going to be a pretty core conversation in our conversation, but there's some other things that I'd like to talk about, and we'll start right off with, first of all, hello and welcome.
Well, hello. It's so nice to see you. It's been way too long.
This Zoom technology, I remember as a child thinking about, oh no, video phones. What are they going to catch me doing? I hope I'm not in the shower. That was the big conversation in the 50s and 60s. So I have a question first about your speaking engagements and your literally affecting people all over the world. And this is something I'm always interested in. When you're standing on that stage or in front of that audience and you're giving out information and sharing literally your life's work here.
Yeah.
On what one or two subjects do you see them most furiously writing down notes?
Well, usually it's about LinkedIn. That's the main topic. They're always surprised about when I talk about, being in LinkedIn Witness Protection Program, how nobody can ever get found. So that's one when I'm showing them, the things that they can do to easily change that, how to change your banner, your headline, and what your profiles should change. Mm-hmm. And then the other topic that people are totally fascinated with, and it actually ties into LinkedIn a little bit, is I'm a certified face reader. And what that means is that there are certain features on your face that can, don't hide, certain features on your face that can give you really good insight into how to approach somebody. So when when you have a meeting with somebody and you can look at their LinkedIn profile and look at their photo and, want to develop instant rapport with them, that's one of the areas that people just, are taking notes fast and furious because they're like, okay, I need to remember this so that I can, know how to approach that person or develop that instant rapport or, get that appointment. So I think that's the two areas.
Excellent. When it comes to the face reading, as a center of influence, you talk about face reading, and I can just see listeners going, okay, face reading, how do I learn about that? What's good about that? Tell us the application that someone would be able to put this to that would help them be more effective in closing the deal. Well,
imagine that you have a distinct advantage because face reading is really just seeing people the way they see themselves. Ooh, so, for example, if you're sitting across from somebody and you're on a Zoom, okay, and one of the first things that you notice about this person is that they have these, the Santa Claus cheeks, right? Those round cheeks. Well, what those cheeks really tell you is that person is like a healer, right? So what you know about that person is, people feel really taken care of by that person because their cheeks are telling you that, people feel safe and a lot of nurses you'll see have those kind of cheeks. Or maybe you see somebody and the first thing that you notice is they have very, very high ears. And I'm one of those people actually. So if you look and you go, okay, there's, your ears are high. What does that tell you? That tells you that person's brain is really, really fast. They process like a fast computer. So if you know what certain characteristics mean and you can interpret them, always never judging them because it's not a perfect science. It's just a way to see people and know that they process information in a certain way or certain lines mean certain things. Then you have a distinct advantage to develop instant rapport with that person. And I'll give you a good example.
Please.
This was before COVID, and I walked into a real estate office. I was doing a presentation there on LinkedIn, and they were running a little bit behind. And the woman that was sitting behind the reception desk, she was a lovely woman, and we just started chatting. And somehow I said to her, I bet that nobody in this office sends anything out unless they run it by you because you're a perfectionist. And she looked at me, she goes, how do you know that? And I said, well, it's those lines on your forehead. And she said, well, tell me more about this. She was fascinated. And I said, I can tell that you just are one tough cookie. You've endured a lot in your life. You've seen a lot. And the right side of your face, by the way, is your personal, your business life. It's your public life. And your left side is your personal. And I said to her, I said, you're a tough cookie. You've endured a lot of disappointment in your life and a lot of sadness. And the next thing I know, the woman's like practically crying. And she said, oh my God, I lost my husband and this job has just saved my life. I love being of service. And, I was just reading the lines on her face, so it's just a way to develop rapport with people. It's so much fun. I mean, it really is fun. And
it does sound that, yeah.
Yeah. And when you combine that with, knowing how to look at a little LinkedIn profile so you can really get insight, it's super fun. It is.
Well, I must admit that you just threw up a softball for me to hit it back to you. What do you look for in a LinkedIn profile?
So what you look for in a LinkedIn profile is, number one, what are these people interested in? Because we all have to do business with people on the like, no trust factor, right?
Yeah.
So you can look at a LinkedIn profile, and of course you want to see, okay, who's this person's ideal client? Who do they do business with? What do other people think about them? Where do they go to school? But what you really want to look at is, who is this person? What charities do they support? What do they like to do in their personal time? I have a client who's a land banker. And, honestly, land banking as a retirement strategy is a great thing, but there's nothing sexy or fun about it. But in her profile, she talks about how she actually used land banking herself as a strategy, and she started an orphanage in Vietnam. And she's an Air Force vet. So what you want to look for is a place to start that conversation and say, wow, I'd love to know more about that orphanage that you started. And, so the profile, the way you develop instant rapport with somebody is the same way you would do it in person. You'd look around somebody's room, somebody's wall, and you'd say, oh, I can see that you're a Dodger fan, or you like golden retrievers, but we can't do that anymore because we all have green screens. And you can't do that anymore because, we're pretty much virtual and we don't go to offices. So what if you could look at somebody's profile and you could see, wow, they spend a lot of time volunteering for the Cancer Society. Or, for example, my husband and I remarried through the Landmark Education Program. And I get a ton of people that will find me and they say, hey, you did Landmark? And it's just like we went to the same education kind of a thing. So that's what you look for. That's how you develop that rapport. The same way you would in person, except you're using the profile. You're just looking in different places.
Well, I must admit, your comment about Landmark, I hope our audience does not believe that what we're telling them is empty and meaningless. That's an inside joke for all you.
You'll get that.
Yeah, your Landmark attendees, you'll get that. And it's a wonderful way to look at the future. And I'll leave that for another conversation. But that
was how my husband and I remarried. It was actually because of Landmark.
Well,
no surprise, right?
Yeah, I just have always loved that. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons behind my establishing this model was because I was at Landmark in the late 1980s, and I couldn't have loved it anymore, but the enrollment process made me want to gag myself with a spoon. And so I developed this as well as for the sales business of how to have the enrollee explain to you why they needed it rather than you explaining to them why they needed it.
Exactly.
And because it was so transformational and so wonderful. And then it shifted into what seemed to me as a harder sell than I thought it it could.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So back to LinkedIn, what is it that you would suggest that a profile writer, even for themselves, start off with? Are you going more towards business, or are you trying to let them know that I really am involved with charitable foundations, and I know that has nothing to do with my business, but it gives you an idea about me? How much and what do you say?
It's a great question. No, it really is a business to business platform. And when you think about the fact that 70 to 80% of the time when someone Googles your name, your LinkedIn profile is going to show up on the first page of Google, right? So it is a business platform. And you do want to tell people, this is who I serve. Okay. These are the results that I get. This is the call to action. Here's some sample clients or some sample industries that I work with. Have a call to action. You do want to put a little bit about you personally. And the reason that I say that is because you want a way for people to relate to you.
Okay.
But the most important thing is have a banner that actually, reflects your brand, have a headline that tells people, who you serve, what do you do? It's not just your title. And then in that about section, write it in first person and, don't use the word I all the time, right? Just basically say, here's the services I offer, and then tell your backstory. People want to know, why do you do what you do? It's, they call it the mess to success. But the reality is, we have to be able to relate to that person, whether we're going to hire them because they're our coach, they're our financial advisor, they're our CPA, whoever they are. You want to know who they are. You want to be able to relate to them. And then putting in a call to action. If somebody's on your profile, what do you want them to do? Book an appointment with you? Do you want them to go to a web page, to a landing page? Do you want them to message you? You need to tell people what to do.
And what have you seen that keeps most people from producing as an effective profile with an about that might be readily, if not easily, corrected?
Well, for starters, first of all, taking that headline and if you have your job title as your headline, change it, okay? Use the 220 characters that LinkedIn gives you.
Good tip.
In your about section, stop using the word I.
Okay.
Don't do it in third person. And make sure you make it easy on the eyes. A lot of people just put a bunch of run-on sentences together and it's very hard to read. So you want to make sure there's, good spacing. You want to step into the shoes of the person reading it. And if it speaks to that person who's your ideal prospect or referral partner, you've done a good job. You've done it right.
Yeah. The challenge with the run-on sentences, et cetera, I know I don't always make as many friends when I discuss this, but I believe writing skills are one of the most underdeveloped skills that are available now for most business people and entrepreneurs. The whole process of communication leaves so much to be desired. What I recommend to clients all of the time is do your best to move away from show and tell. And how do you set that up for yourself personally? That's a good question to ask. How do I share what it is that I do and the difference that I make without always talking about how I do it and what I do it? Because most people don't care. They care about what you can do for them. So
that's true. And there's a section on the profile called featured. And, putting case studies there, even if you don't have names, maybe you want to protect the names of your clients. One of my clients actually is a commercial real estate broker. And, when I upgraded his profile and we worked together and I coached him, we put 3 of his case studies right in the featured section. And he started posting. I upgraded his profile for him. And within less than 6 months, he added an additional 7 figures of income. He went up 29%.
Wow.
And the truth is that all he really did was consistently post, reached out, got recommendations, gave recommendations, and showed up like the professional that he was. So it clearly works. And I have hundreds of stories that are just like that. But the truth is, you have to start out with a profile that reflects who you are and is written towards attracting your ideal client or referral partner.
Okay, let's say that a person has done their best to create a profile and it is somewhat effective and they have a presence. They are not, what did you call it?
Not in the LinkedIn Witness Protection Program.
Yeah, I love that. Like, nobody's going to find me ever. Yeah. When you get past that, you mentioned about referrals and commenting. What is the hierarchy of the way to deal with both incoming contacts and outgoing comments?
So part of it is, I'm a big fan of using the paid version of LinkedIn. In fact, using Sales Navigator. But when people are connecting with you, you want to be somewhat picky about who you're going to accept. My rule is, no picture. Sorry, not going to accept you. If you're from a country I can't pronounce, or it isn't in English, they need to send a personal connection request. And conversely, when you're sending out connection requests, you want to put it. So it might be something like, I came across your profile and noticed that we share X number of common connections. We're both landmark grads. We, whatever it happens to be. Love to connect. Look forward to learning more about you and your business. And then once you connect with me, then continuing to engage. Say, thanks so much for connecting with me. I'll tell you a little bit about me, and then I'd love to know more about you, and maybe inviting you to jump on a call. So that's one of the ways. The other is take a look at who's been looking at your profile. There are people that look at your profile but never connect with you, or are connected with you and look, but don't bother to make a phone call or a message. So reach out to those people. Think of them like all of your old first and second cousins, right? That, only show up at weddings and funerals. Yeah. So it's an opportunity to re-engage with them and say, hey, I noticed that you viewed my profile. Curious, what was it that caught your eye? Or, we've been connected for a while and I noticed you viewed my profile, wondering how you're doing during 2020, now that the pandemic is still going, whatever. So you want to take advantage of all that.
So when you were talking about Sales Navigator, before that, you mentioned why you think that the professional version of LinkedIn is really the best way to go. Would you share that with us, what your reasons are?
Yeah, number one, even if you're reconnecting with your existing connections, using Sales Navigator, you have an additional 12 filters that you can search through.
And this is in LinkedIn, correct?
Correct. And above and beyond that, you can do a very exhaustive search to find those people that fit your criteria. And then you can use InMail, you can use messaging to be able to connect with those people. And without Sales Navigator, number one, you're going to hit the limit on the number of people that you can connect with. But number two, you don't have all of those filters and you can't save the searches. So Sales Navigator is an amazing tool. And whether you're using Sales Navigator or Premium, it allows you to see beyond the first 3 or 5 people that have viewed your profile. And that's pretty important. So, Sales Navigator is just, for $79 a month, or I think it's 20% less if you buy it annually, it's a tool that could put a lot of money in your pocket. But like anything else, you need to use it. To those people that actually took the time to like your post, to start a conversation with them and say, hey, I thank so much for liking my post about, whatever it was that I happened to put up there. I did a post, I think it was yesterday, and it was a video, and it was a little boy in a classroom, which hopefully kids will get back to soon. And all the kids were taking out their lunch boxes. And the little boy opens his lunchbox and it's empty. There's literally nothing in there. So he raises his hand and he asks to leave the room, goes down the hall, gets a drink of water, comes back, and he's just got this sad face on. And he opens up his lunchbox again, and all of a sudden it was filled with all kinds of grapes and food, and you could see all the kids smiling because when he left to go get the drink of water and all the kids knew, they filled his lunchbox with food. It was that tiny little act of kindness. And, it was a 55-second video. And I put on there, what acts of kindness have you done lately? It can really change somebody's life. And again, 80% of what you post can just be motivational and inspirational. 20% can be related to your business. But those are the things that, people smile about. And that's how you get engagement.
Can you give an example of a motivational or confirmational post?
Yeah, actually, on New Year's Day, I was thinking, okay, what can I post on New Year's Day that's going to really, get people to smile? And it wasn't even my post. It was actually somebody else's, and I shared it. And it was 3 millennial young women, and they had the words 2020 in rice. And it was like, if you remember those old puzzles, those wooden puzzles, they just threw it up, and it was like, bye-bye 2020. And it was just so original. So I put something on there. I just said, bye-bye 2020, right? That post has gotten 69,000 views, about 754 likes. I can't really remember how many comments, and it's been reshared over 20 times. And, the motivation in that is, yes, goodbye 2020, we've had enough, right? Let's welcome 2021. Or just using things that you find on Instagram, right? Making sure you always give credit to where you got the post, but, positive statements. And it's amazing what kind of interaction you can get. People are starving for that.
I know. You brought up the reach of some of the posts in terms of thousands of views or hundreds and hundreds of comments. What have you seen over your experience with LinkedIn that is the key to something being really accepted versus something being looked at?
Number one, it's being authentic. It's really being authentic. Number two, it's really engaging with others. You can put out really great content, but if you don't engage or, play well with others, then you won't get it back. So, one of the things that you want to do is always make sure, when you're looking through your feed or you're following certain people, that you like and reshare their material. I was really fortunate. I was put on a list of like one of the top 100 influencers. I don't even know how I got on there.
I know.
But when somebody likes or comments on your post, always, comment back and like back and respond, because that's what gets the algorithm going. You don't want to just let it fall on dead air. In the same way, when somebody, accepts your connection request and then you never send a thank you note, you never, engage with them. So it's like a billboard, right? How many billboards have we driven by and we don't pay attention to? Yeah. And yet, right, and that's what a view is. A view is it's a billboard. So somebody, looked at it. But what you really want is the engagement. So think about it this way. If you're a strict vegan and the billboard that you're driving by says In-N-Out Burger, it's not even going to hit your radar. You're just going to keep driving. But if you like In-N-Out Burger and you're starving and you're driving down the freeway and it says next exit In-N-Out Burger, you're probably going to pay attention, and you're going to get off and you're going to wait in the line, because there's always a line to get your In-N-Out Burger. Well, when somebody takes the time to actually like or comment or share your post, it gives you a reason to reach out to them, to engage with them, right? So it builds. It's like any muscle. And
so what I'm hearing is the tip is that it's the interaction.
Absolutely.
That really is not only triggers whatever the algorithm is, but that in real life, it goes back to people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And what you said before, I think, especially now, and no matter when you are listening or watching this, we are now in the early stages of 2021, and COVID has really not left the premises by any means. So both for the rapport building, everybody's got something in common now. And also for the flip side, what you were talking about, loneliness and isolation has really put a lot of people into a position where they're going, is it really worth my doing this? And I think what you said, and I hadn't really thought about this, it's such a good way to interact with people. If you're on LinkedIn for a reason that you know rather than you're just on, I guess the recommendation would be to start using it.
Yeah, for sure. Many years ago, there was a gentleman that used to post every day, and he wasn't on LinkedIn to get business. In fact, his business was, he would go to his computer at the end of the week. They would tell him what city to go to the next week, and he would go out and help the sales force close deals. And so he was just posting a bunch of motivational and inspirational stuff. And, every day that would be the first thing I would see. And it always made me smile. It's like I'm one of those people that still gets the newspaper, right? And the only reason I get the newspaper is I do the crossword. It's just kind of funny. I like the paper crossword. So I sent him a note and I said, hey, I just want to say thanks. Every day you bring a smile to my face. I don't know if you know this, but I so appreciate what you post. And I share it, by the way, with a lot of the people on my list. So I just wanted to say thank you. And he wrote back and said nobody has ever thanked him. And that it just made his day. And he said, is there anything I can do for you?
That's marvelous.
Yeah. And I said, no. I just wanted to let you know. He said, well, I've been watching you and I would love to share what you do with my, list. Well, his list was about 100,000 people. It was crazy. He had so many followers. Wow. And so I said, well, that would be awesome. I said, can I tweak your profile for you? Can I do anything? And he goes, oh, does my profile need tweaking? And I was like, well, maybe just a little. He said, well, let me pay you. And I said, no, your money doesn't work at my bank. Let me just do this for you. And so I upgraded his profile for him. And literally my inbox blew up. I don't know what he sent out. I don't know what he did. But all of this because I just said, hey, thank you so much for brightening my day. So you never know where this is going to go. Honestly, you just never know and it's always about coming from a place of being authentic and genuine. You're not doing it for the likes. You're not doing it for, to get the attention. You're doing it because you genuinely want to make a difference. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned another trait that I find sorely missing in not only communication, but in general, and that's kindness.
Yeah.
And I know that you really talk about that in detail and talk about the benefits of it. Even if you're not out for the benefit, there's a benefit in being kind. And I just think that a lot of that has been lost, especially in today's, a digital world where the contact between people is even less, and the ability to show kindness might be looked at as an afterthought. And I think a lot of that has to do that if somebody takes the time to comment or react or interact with you based on something that you've taken the time to put together and put out there, even if it was just a thought, by all means, be kind. You can't expect reciprocity, but you can seed reciprocity, I believe, by just being kind and saying thank you. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. I have two daughters. They're 29 and 31. And my 29-year-old was driving through Starbucks one day. And, she works for a nonprofit and she's very much the giver, and she goes to pay for her coffee. And the person at the window said, oh, the car in front of you paid for it. She was like, what? She was totally shocked. And she said, okay, well, just pay for the car in back of me, and she was just that one little act of kindness, just changed everything. It literally changed everything. And, we just moved, right? We bought a house in Carlsbad. And I don't know if you know Henry DeVries. Do you know Henry? He's a ghostwriter. He's pretty an amazing guy.
I don't think so, no.
I've known Henry a long, long time. And I actually refer a lot of people to Henry because he's exceptional as a ghostwriter. And, for the longest time, we lived about an hour away from each other, right? And he's actually working with my husband, which is kind of funny. And on Saturday, he just out of the blue, stopped by with his mask, socially distant, and just dropped off this really nice housewarming gift, And it was salt and sugar and a bottle of wine, and the salt, the sugar was to welcome the sweetness into your house. And, like there's a little note with all of it, right? Knowing that my husband's like a wine connoisseur. And it just, made our day. I thought, wow, who does that? Who brings over housewarming gifts when they can't even come into your house, and it shows you these acts of kindness. And it's just the little things that make the biggest difference. So, I'm glad you mentioned that.
It'll be interesting to see how adaptable we are as humans coming out of this. Because, I watch movies now and I get upset that they're not wearing masks. And they're movies from the 1950s, So,
oh, funny, yeah.
So, they're not wearing masks. They're too close to each other. So the ability to break now what is a year-long habit track and come back out, that's one of the things that I'm focusing on now, is that there has to be a kinder and gentler way to sell when we come to the other side of this. No one's going to want to sit there and have someone try to convince them and influence them about anything. They just want to come up for air. So the importance, though, of LinkedIn and that type of communication during the pandemic cannot be underplayed because of how powerful it's been. I had not been on LinkedIn very much, and I gravitated towards it. And who would have thought that a Zoom conversation such as this and the others that we're having would make such a big impact, a year ago, said the person who didn't know and didn't buy the stock.
Me either. There you go.
Yeah. Nobody told me.
I know. I wish.
So, it's all right. There'll be another Zoom soon. But, what you're doing, I think, now is so helpful because it's giving people that little extra leg up in their ability to communicate and communicate effectively without having to be face to face. And that's really what LinkedIn and the other platforms are. They're how you're sharing yourself and what you do. And what's the biggest challenge you're having in getting people to do what they know that they should do? Because I have that problem in terms of, people learning to do something they're not used to.
I think for a lot of people, the technology sometimes becomes overwhelming. They don't understand Zoom. They don't understand how to set up Calendly or one of those programs. And we're spending too much time in front of a computer. We're not spending time with people, for the most part. So I think the biggest challenge is just, handling the technology more than anything else. I think that's really what it is.
Getting over the shock of the interface, huh?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And learning to use green screens and, and ring lights and, like I'm not using a green screen right now, but typically I do, and how do you show up on camera, and, getting the right mic and headphones and sound and, all this kind of stuff. And it's overwhelming, whether you're young or you're old. It can be very overwhelming.
Not only that, and I talked about this yesterday on a conversation I was having on LinkedIn, where people have a tendency of going inside right now, even though they want to be listened to and understood and communicate. But they're having a hard time because I say it's because of what we were programmed as by our parents or our parents' substitutes, like teacher or clergy, when we were taught as children, never speak to strangers.
Right.
Don't speak unless you're spoken to, and you should be seen and not heard. Yeah. And here we have to go out and do the exact opposite on a daily basis, whether it's digitally or in person. And, I guess that's why speaking in front of a group is still feared more than drowning. So I just want to throw that in there, that may be another hitch in someone's get along, is actually being willing to communicate on yet another channel. So,
well, and a lot of people are used to texting, especially the younger people. That's how they, communicate. It's all voice and text. And
in about 10 or 15 years, they'll be on LinkedIn.
And now we have to actually see people and actually talk to people and actually, leave voicemail messages. It's a whole different world.
So my question, and how do so many noises. I apologize.
No worries.
So here is what I would like to do. If there was one thing that you could share to the listeners of the Close the Deal Without Selling podcast that you think they could take with them and, just grab onto it and go, I'm going to do that. I believe that this will be good for me. What would that be?
Actually go to somebody that knows you pretty well, that knows what you do, and ask them to look at your LinkedIn profile and say to them, if I were going to refer to you based on what's here, if all that you could see was what was on this profile, would you still refer to me? Like, would it give you enough confidence to, make that referral? If the answer is no, then you need to either, take that profile down or fix it up. Because people don't, it's the blind spot, right? The blind spot is you don't know what you don't know. People don't realize how they're showing up on their digital footprint. So, ask somebody that will give you honest feedback. And if you don't, reach out to me and I'll give you, a free audit. I'll actually do that for you.
That's very generous.
I think that's really what what I would say is, have somebody else, because we don't know, we can look at it and go, oh, this looks great. Maybe it does for you, but you're not the client, the referral partner, the prospect. So you want somebody to step into those shoes and look at it and give you really honest feedback. So
you brought up people contacting you. And I think that there is a key to making that happen. And that's you telling us how we can contact you.
So the best way to contact me is actually just send an email. And the best email is LinkedInDiva. So it's LinkedInDiva, LinkedInDiva@gmail.com. And just put that you heard me on this show and you'd like your free LinkedIn audit, or connect with me on LinkedIn, or just go to LinkedIn Planner. There's a LinkedIn Planner right there.
Excellent. And I really want to extend the thanks in proxy for all of the listeners, because I know how important a topic this is for the type of individual and professional who listens to this podcast. These are people in appointment-based sales who are looking to, as I've said for years, turn their contacts into contracts more easily and more often. And what you're helping them with is getting contacts in a state of relationship, authentic relationship, in which turning them from one to the other, they're doing it because they trust and they believe in you based on how you've communicated with them, not because you walk in and they're dazzled by your magnificence. So I invite all of you to look at what Rhonda has done over the years. And if you really need help with that, please contact her. I tell you when I can do stuff, that's not my wheelhouse. And I'm going to call her. So I just, on behalf of everyone, I really want to thank you again for giving information.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Right
It was fun
away.
being here with you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So take care, stay healthy, and I look forward to us talking soon.
Me too. Thanks, Ike. Take care. Bye-bye.